everyone, I'm Chester44 and welcome to this Let's Play of Tyranny. Last episode, we made our way towards his favorite camp. We did a little walking around and looking through, happened to find someone who asked for our help, and learned a little bit about things. Now the time has come to go in and speak with Graven Ash, and deliver our edict to him. Though I think both of them might be here. Yesterday you chid me for wishing to wait, now you suggest an even longer delay? Perhaps the voices in your skull ought to come to a consensus if you wish to be taken seriously. Good advice is flexible, changing with the moment. Besides, now we're agreeing with you we know you hate going into battle without overwhelming odds on your side. If you're so terrified of a challenge, why wait for reinforcements? I don't need your heckling, I need your scouting reports. Or better yet, confirmation you quelled the Oathbreakers in the Outer Valley. Oh, that? We will solve it in our own time and way. We must make at least a token effort to show them mercy after all. Mercy? They have already shat upon our mercy once before. These gutter-born South Knobs deserved nothing better than death. Oh, calm down now. We must leave something to rule. Or have you forgotten Kyrus's orders? Patience, old chum. Let us move forward and break this up.
That's 4 reports of avalanches in the mountains now. The Tiersmen can barely count past 9. They have neither the capacity nor the cause to close off the mountain passes. Either way, that leaves the 2nd and 4th cohort trapped outside the valley.
The Archon of War pounds his staff on the ground to punctuate his words. A large and imposing man to begin with, his profile is made larger still by his hulking suit of armor that hums with mystic energy.
Or it's the work of your perfidious Earthshakers. Only a fool would not suspect a traitorous Archon of poisoning the mind of his students with sedition. We would have killed the Earthshakers Guild for their master's treachery, but I'm sure you have some perfectly valid reason for allowing them to live as your pawns.
The Archon of Secrets passes a scepter between his hands as he speaks, twirling the rod in hypnotic circles. Emerald luminescence seeps from the seams of the Archon's ragged red robes. The glow is most noticeable where his neck ought to be. His mask seems to float and spin, never pivoting or bending naturally.
Hey, watch yourself. When these two get going, you don't want to get between them.
Verse whispers fearfully as she beholds the Archons. Clear your throat.
I always know you've run out of things to say when you resort to mocking my vassals. If we are to speak of treachery, why is it that my scouts see the Scarlet Chorus warriors defecting back to the Vendrian Guard? Your fearsome reputation has gone flaccid, for it seems you cannot control your soldiers, or perhaps you simply choose not to.
My lords, the Fatebinder has arrived. The disfavored commander raises her voice, trying with little success to speak over the Archons. Perhaps we could table this discussion and let our guest speak.
Speaking of strategic failures, who was it that insisted the valley would need only a token garrison? For some strange reason, we can't seem to recall which balding halfwit grossly underestimated the enemy. Thoughts?
The Archon of Secrets twirls his scepter in a twisting loop, his leather-wrapped hands flipping the heavy rod with an effortless flow. Oh, you hear the voices in your head. Can you hear us, Fatebinder? Cough if we have your attention. Hold on. Cough audibly.
And I thought you had left agents within these Tiersmen when they surrendered. Either you failed to see this coming, or you knew and let it happen. Incompetent or in cahoots, either way, this mess has your filthy stink all over it.
The Archon of War lurches forward, resting his weight on his war maul as blue luminescence crackles around his armor.
We look forward to seeing you explain to Tunon why the Archon of War could not close the vice on this trivial little insurgency. When we are crowned the ruler of the Tiers, we shall have this place renamed to Ash's Folly in your honor.
The voices of Narat tosses his scepter into the air, catching it as it descends back down. You hear the voices in your head. Good, good. Now pay attention. You might miss something. Remain silent.
If I could trust the information I get from you and your conscripted mouth breathers, perhaps I'd order my cohorts around a bit more aggressively. But last time I trusted your all-clear report, my troops failed to come home.
Oh, Ash, old boy. If you're going to have a little sob every time one of your nieces or nephews dies to the Tearsman, perhaps we should have Siren sing you some calming lullabies to help you cope with your grief.
The Archon flips his scepter 3 times around, humming gleefully. You hear the voices in your head. Take care that you don't learn too much, Fatebinder. An excess of knowledge, of curiosity even, can earn unwanted attention. Hold your tongue! I will not have you denigrate the honor of our fallen brethren! The commander's hand moves to the hilt of her blade, though the weapon stays sheathed. I'd be doing us all a favor if I cracked open that excuse for a head. They bicker like children, do they not? The fifth eye's grating tenor pierces the tension in the tent, and all eyes land on the Crimson Spear. I, meant only to say welcome to our guest, the Fatebinder. The armored retainer bows with rushed inelegance, then rises to a salute. And not a moment too soon. Governor Jason Pendragon, long have we been honored by your ion. Now we are honored by your presence. I must apologize for my lords. Tempers run high of late. Bow and salute each Archon.
Ah, the Stormcaller. Conveniently late once more. Our eyes and ears tell us you come bearing an edict. The anticipation is killing us.
Conquest decision. Well, at least we gained favor with them.
My soldiers tell me you helped Commander Drotus on your way through Edring. You honor the court with your selfless cooperation, for that is the sort of camaraderie that Kairos demands of us all.
On the last of his words, the Archon glares at the voices of Narat, furrowing his brow as he utters the word camaraderie. I require no thanks for doing my sworn duty.
Modesty is your prerogative, but know that cooperation and goodwill have been rarities of late. You do your Lord Tunon a great honor by aiding your cousins in the disfavored.
No, don't mind us while you trade your gushing praise. We're sure the Fatebinder has come because our company lacks in small talk.
I come bearing an edict of Kairos.
It seemed only yesterday you were proving your worth in battle, assisting my warriors in the siege of the bastard city. Now Kairos has chosen you for a second time to proclaim an edict. Tell us, good Fatebinder, what sort of punishment does the Overlord have in store for the Oathbreakers?
The Overlord's loyal servants must hold Ascension Hall by Kairos' Day of Swords, or all in the valley shall perish. Let's see, the 26th of every month or span is Kairos' Day. It is a day of holiday and rest for all within the Overlord's empire. Each Kairos' Day is the last day of its span and is referred to by the span's name. Kairos' Day of Swords, therefore, is the 26th day of the span of swords. The earth sways with each word you utter, the air thickening with warmth as you pronounce the tersely phrased commandment, its every syllable drafted by the hand of Kairos. With the edict proclaimed, your pulse quickens, and the muscles in your legs, worn from a long trip down the mountains, feel renewed, the tired limbs now nearly buoyant with vigor.
The Overlord means to compel us into action. No doubt the avalanches in the mountains are part of this ultimatum. We must conquer the Oathbreakers or die in failure. There is no room for error, and no other way out of this valley alive. We'll need to advance across the Mittani. We lose everything if we stand still. And we move to backup Plan Green. The Earthshakers didn't make it over the mountain in time. So we do this the hard way. Over the walls instead of through.
The Archon of War taps a finger against his temple. A low rumble escapes from under his beard.
So you found your backbone at last! Oh, we were worried past humiliations would make you soft, timid. That was a record for you, right? The baker's dozen lost in one sortie. If you had waited for the chorus reinforcements, maybe we'd have eyes and ears on the matter.
The Archon of Secrets passes his scepter from one hand to the next, chuckling softly with each toss. You hear the voices in your head. Watch him squirm. So many tears over replaceable, expendable, useless soldiers. I miss the old Archon of War. You'd never see blood echo in a blubbering mess over a few dead killers. He'd used the knuckle bones of his past disciples for jewelry, and even made a breastplate out of his dead brother's ribcage, because that's how a real man deals with grief. Jeez, that's insulting, but you certainly don't seem to know anything remotely useful. God, why would I say that? Bicker all you wish. You're just wasting valuable time.
The Fatebinder is right. We're acting not as leaders, but as children. I've no time for your foolish japes and petty taunts. We should focus on the objective at hand, and that is taking the Mittani River, and then advancing to Ascension Hall and ending this edict.
Our lives hang in the balance because you two bicker like children. Now go, solve this problem you've started. My lord, Barak and his band have been drilled on the Echo Call assault plan. The Crescent Runners should be briefing him as we speak regarding the latest enemy movements along the river. I will dispatch him at once. The Iron Marshal salutes, clapping her gauntlet to her breastplate. And I will ensure the chorus stands ready to march. If the disfavored can take the river, the chorus has the manpower to secure the outer ring of the valley.
Our soldiers clamor for battle, and at last we shall have it. Verse, we command you to continue guarding the Fatebinder. Tunan's Chosen is our honored guest, and must be shown our finest hospitality.
I won't let you down, boss. He'll get through the campaign in one piece, as long as he doesn't do anything too stupid.
And before we forget, we have a debt to settle. Last year, when our warriors got confused about supply lines, so kind of you to understand how things get muddled in the fog of war.
The Archon of Secrets tosses several iron rings your way as he begins to leave. He taps the fifth eye on the shoulder and, with one last twirl of his scepter, the Archon departs with his underling. Suit yourself, Fatebinder. The more you ignore us. Let the rings fall to the ground. I don't take bribes. No, I'll catch the rings. The Archon of Secrets lets out a small chuckle as he leaves.
Finally, the fool and his puppet are gone. Perhaps now I can hear myself think. Rarely do I question Kairos' judgment, but I will never understand why the voices of Narat is given such authority. I shudder to think what will become of us all should Tunon favor him in the end. Though the edict threatens the Scarlet Chorus just as it threatens us, I cannot shake the feeling that our allies will work against us. You've shown your worth in war, and your name has been known to the Legion since the very beginning of this long conquest. So I'd ask that you join us this one last time, to help us wrap up this last objective. If you wish to be counted amongst the glorious, speak with the Iron Marshal. She will direct the order of battle until we are ready for the final push into the Citadel.
I'm short a few scouts, short a few soldiers, short a few everything. I'm sure my brethren would be grateful for the assistance of a skilled outsider. I would be honored to help. The Iron Marshal salutes Graven Ash, then turns to leave the tent. I will be at the training grounds, readying the soldiers. Find me there when you are ready. She pauses, clearing her throat. And, though I am loath to mention it, the chorus can likely use your assistance. They certainly won't secure the outer valley on their own. Fifth Eye will be somewhere in that rat's nest they call a camp due east. Seek him out if you must. We will assist both. Now then. Let us speak with... talking with companions. Once a companion joins your party. Okay, we've already done that. Also interject their opinions in conversations you're having with other characters. What's this? 8 days to Kairos' Day of Swords. We have 8 days?! Oh, jeez. The Archon of War lets out a long sigh as he surveys the maps and models splayed about his desk. He glances over his shoulder, making brief eye contact with you, furrows his brow, and turns back to his contemplation. The first time you proclaimed an edict, you gave the enemy a suspicious amount of time to ready themselves. I chalk it up to excessive mercy for a backwards people. But when the edict is against your kin, that order you follow to the letter. Sadly, I had no time or ability to change that. May we speak a moment? After bowing. You have been a staunch ally of the disfavored since the bastard city. I consider you our ally in the court. My mind is in a poor mood for banter, but if you wish a moment of my time, you may have it. What is on your mind? Your regiment here in Vendrian's Well is small, even by disfavored standards. This conquest has us spread thin. Every league we conquer must be held. I issued the call to assembly, but most of the cohorts remained trapped across the mountains. No bother. Won't be the first time I've had to do much with little. I need to know why conquering a few lowly tiersmen is so impossible a task. The Archon lets out a long sigh, glaring at you with a furrowed brow. It is not for lack of trying. Earlier in the year, when the chorus were still gathering to the valley, I launched a raiding party to head straight to the citadel. They never made it past the Matani River. With no disfavored survivors and no chorus scouts with eyes on the situation, I know very little of what occurred, only that they died quickly. That left me short-handed and in need of more troops, and they've been slowly trickling in from everywhere, and I guess I've been guilty of waiting for my numbers to be overwhelming instead of merely enough. What became of the warriors you left to garrison this region years ago? I, too, have questions about that. The Archon inhales sharply, his posture becoming defensive. His cold blue eyes stare at you with an unblinking intensity. I have reason to believe that when the garrison was taken, the disfavored were slain not by the Oathbreakers, and though I know it in my bones, I cannot prove the voices of Narath is at fault. Well, what's your reason to believe such a thing? It is well known that I can protect my soldiers from harm, even if they are beyond my sight. What is less known is that I sense every cut, every kill, every illness. No harm to my soldiers escapes my notice. Of the warriors posted at the Vendrian's Well citadel, only 2 were slain in the uprising. But a few others died later, and horrible, painful magic was involved. My son was one of those who died under such unusual circumstances. For a second, the Archon of War trembles, his eyes widening with a faraway stare. The Tiersmen have customs against killing prisoners. I'd expect your warriors to be slain in the heat of battle, but not after. Do they? I suppose I am guilty of paying little heed to what these hillfolk believe. This makes it all the more troubling they died when they did. I need to consider what you have told me. Let us speak of something else. What can you tell me of Cairn, the late Archon of Stone? I should have known sooner his heart strayed from Kairos. I needed to split our forces, send him to Azure while I tackled Stalwart, but that was a mistake. Without me looming near, he must have felt free to live out his traitor's dreams. Let me see here. As tall as the hills, Cairn is the Archon of Stone, master of earth and soil, destroyer of mountains and cities. Cairn is the reluctant leader of the Earthshaker Guild, though he is less their teacher and more their object of study. The massive Archon is sworn to Graven Ash and provides arcane support to the disfavored war effort. Why do you think he turned against Kairos? Cairn only served us because death was the alternative. He did not admire the unity and progress that Kairos brings. While I suspect Kairos agents may have whispered treachery in Cairn's ear, I think it wholly possible Cairn fell into disloyalty by his own volition. What has become of Cairn's disciples, the Earthshakers? Cairn's chief disciple, Radix, now speaks for the guild. It is true that my warriors are a bit apprehensive about our magical allies. Many suspect Cairn's treachery was taught to them. But I have vetted the guild, pruned whom I don't trust, kept those I can. Speak of something else. You distrust the voices of Narat as plain as day. How did this antipathy begin? Our rivalry is an old one. The voices of Narat served Kairos before I did, and I believe he hates me for being of roughly the same status in the eyes of the Overlord, despite being the younger Archon selected to lead an army through the tiers. The Archon furrows his brow, grumbling softly as he stares. This war seems to have brought out the worst in us. We've disagreed on strategy at every turn. If I have my history right, you used to fight against Narat. That is true. There was a time before I was the Archon of War, a time when I took arms against the Overlord. At the time, the voices of Narat was among those invading the lands I called home. So too was Blood Echo, the previous Archon of War. My warriors and I ambushed and killed the old Archon of War, but the larger campaign was lost and we had to surrender. When Kairos awarded me the honor of being the next Archon of War, the voices of Narat wanted me for his slave pens, or some equally terrible fate. So yes, he and I have a long history, and that's all I wish to speak of it. Salute and turn to leave. That is all. For the glory of Kairos! The Archon of War taps the haft of his maul to the ground for emphasis, then turns back to his maps.
That wasn't so hard.
We can take a few things here. Frayed purple cloth. The tattered remains of an Iron Walker's cape. Ragged tears in the cloth obscure the sigil of the disfavored. This torn cape can be sold to the merchant as spare parts. Good to know. And what is this item we happen to get? Something about some rings? Perhaps we didn't actually take them. No matter, we walk out. Okay. Severus and Iron Marshal Erinos. Oh, she has something to say. Verse. How did you do that? Verse looks at you with a quizzical expression. Do what? Back in the Archon's war tent. You cast an edict as casually as reading a supply shipment. How do you do that? Well, I've done it before. Don't I look stupid? You were the one who cast the Edict of Storms on Stalwart, didn't you? The one that tore the battlefield apart with a cyclone of Kairos' anger. That was me, all right. Well, call me impressed. Considering that you've read the words of Kairos more than once, I'm surprised that you're even alive to tell of it. Your vocal cords should have turned to ash by now. They kind of are! I'm not trying to make you feel uncomfortable, it's just worth recognizing what you've done. Not only are you Tunon's Fatebinder, you're the mouthpiece of the Overlord. Gives me plenty of reason to stick around. You're going places, and I want to see where they lead.
What do you need?
I want to ask about our travels, since I can.
What did you have in mind?
What do you think of our present circumstances? Well, there's an edict hanging over our heads. As far as I'm concerned, the incompetence of the disfavored got us into this mess, and it will take the fury of the Scarlet Chorus to get us out of it. In other words, nothing ever changes. Edict of Execution. The Overlord has decreed that all in the valley on Kairos' Day of Swords shall die unless Kairos' representative holds Ascension Hall. What do you mean you haven't heard from Commander Ironcore? It's been a full span since we sent word to him. Last we heard, Master Radix said to keep an eye on the northeastern pass, that he'd be coming through there. For the mercy of Kairos, we don't have the soldiers to send hunting through the trees for our own damn Earthshakers. Fatebinder Jason Pendragon, am I right? I'm Sevius, Commander and 3rd Generation Disfavored. Specifically, I'm Sevius the Younger. Some folks can't keep track. The rank says Commander, but lately I'm just organizing patrols and trying to stay out of the way. You should talk to Iron Marshal if you've something official that needs discussing. What is it that you need? I overheard you asking that Earthshaker where their reinforcements have gone. Is there a problem? I'm afraid so. Radix, the head of the Earthshakers, was supposed to arrive with a group of his most competent spellslingers to help break the stalemate. I don't know what's holding up their arrival, and that worries me. If you were at all inclined to lend a hand, we could use some arcane support on our side. I could lend a hand. Could you? I knew that Tunon's agent wouldn't fail us in a time of need. I'll mark the last known site of our Earthshaker reinforcements on your map. Good hunting, Fatebinder. Why do you think the siege is delayed so long? It should have been over real quick and simple. The first cohort arrived in the valley and it went right for the kill. But that was before we knew the Vendrian Guard had sages and that water witch on their side. A bigger problem is the Scarlet Chorus. They eagerly conscript the Vendrian Guard, but I have no proof of this, but it seems they do very little to keep a watchful eye on these drafted tiersmen. They are often sent out on patrol, and we suspect they use that opportunity to escape back to the Vendrian Guard. Every Chorus conscript has a choice. Life under Kairos, or death under the army's boots. By all means, feel free to cut down those who choose the latter. We won't be offended. Just so we don't mistake each other, I know what I'm saying carries any implication of treachery. I'm not making a formal accusation before Tunon's agent. I'm just voicing my gut opinion on the matter. The two armies haven't worked well together in years. Why do you think that is? Come on, Binder. Seems like asking my beast stink. The disfavored are only too eager to deliver Kairos' peace to the Tiers, while the Scarlet Chorus bring only mayhem in their wake. You can tell me the Voices of Narad has a plan, and I'll take your word for it, but the Chorus sure seems to blunder around, never moving with purpose as we do. I wonder if we've been fighting the same war, soldier. I've seen Ash yank his precious soldiers away from more battles than he's won. If you want to call that progress, be my guest. Unless we find a way to work as one, I fear that the Scarlet Chorus will step in front of Graven Ash's strategies at every turn. As far as I'm concerned, it seems like the Voices of Narad is here to amuse himself, while the rest of us are here to do our job. Tell me about yourself. Not much to tell. My father was Sevius the Elder. His father was Sevius the First of his name, lead drill master of Ash's first Iron Guard, back when they were the Bronze Guard. I was born into the Legion, and with any hope, I'll die in the Legion. The rest of you will hopefully hear about when the storytellers immortalize me. He was the Bronze Guard, so your family must have been with Ash since before he was with Kairos. Ah, you know your history! Sevius nods with gusto. The blood goes back that far. Not the memories, as I only ever knew my father. My grandfather was just a legend. One of Ash's best warriors back before the Disfavored were reforged in iron. I'm proud of my heritage, but I try not to brag. There are folks who love the iron every bit as much as I do, but they lack the same pedigree. You should be proud of your pedigree. Thanks, but I try not to think about it too fondly. If anything, every time I screw something up, I wish I wasn't dragging the family name through mud along with me. Bronze Guard? Well, his day and age was a century ago, and they didn't have Kairos' modern luxuries like iron, so back then the Great General's Inner Council was known as the Bronze Guard. Back to my other questions. Farewell. And now, let's actually learn about her. Episode's gonna go a little long, but it's fine. Don't just coddle the impact, push back with your shield, take the momentum! Iron Marshal Erenyos, field commander of the Disfavored, pounds her fist in the air as she calls out to the warriors on the training field. I said eyes on your opponent's waistline. If you spend more than a glance checking his footwork, you've lost. The Disfavored officer turns to you, adjusting her pale golden surcoat as she clears her throat. Need to stay on top of the troops or their skills will rust. It's for their own good, even if they don't believe it. Good. Judging from her uniform, this is the Iron Marshal Erenyos, first among equals in the Iron Guard, Graven Ash's inner circle of trusted followers. Charged with being the duties of leadership, logistics, and training, there is rarely a quiet day for the second-in-command of the Disfavored Legion. It was mentioned you're short on warriors and need help. What's the situation? I have brigades amassing along Placid, Echocall, and Littletooth Crossing. The Vendrian Guard may be able to hold one bridge, but they cannot hold against a concerted three-prong attack. I have no right to give you orders, but... Her words falter, a short cough breaking her flow. But we all die to Kairos' edict should we fail, so I'm not about to let my pride blind me to the value of good help. This is the second major attack on the river, correct? What happened last time? Defeat in detail. We carved a bloody path up to the river, but at that point everyone who charged ahead was lost. We had no chorus backup, it was just a few disfavored squads. I can't tell you exactly how they were defeated, but we lost the whole assault team. She shakes her head, letting out a long, pained sigh. We found bodies washing up in the river for days. It's not often the Tearsmen put up such a good fight. It certainly made us reevaluate the number we'll need to take this valley. Really? Are you sure our scouts didn't give you all sorts of details about the enemy and you just chose to disregard our warnings? Excuse me. I'm sure the disfavored would have heeded any such advice. Maybe next time we won't be so forthcoming. Let's see how many of your precious northern stock survived the war without our intelligence to back them up. Don't test me, Fury. This sort of talk gets us nowhere. What's the value of taking the crossing? We can't just march from here to the Citadel with the Vendrian Guard manning the riverbanks. Fording troops and supplies through even the narrowest points of the river makes us vulnerable to attack, especially since our armor wasn't built for swimming. She points north, toward the mountain spire looming on the horizon. If we can take the river, we have a clear march to the Citadel, and Ascension Hall will be ours in no time. The disfavored need my help. Trying to pour salt on my pride. We left Fort Resolution with 100 on 100, and there have been no reinforcements or reserves. I keep throwing warriors back into battle before they're properly rested. So yes, I need to rely on all our allies, especially since most of our allies are conscripted Tearsmen. Worse than useless. Well, if the disfavored didn't take every opportunity to insult the Scarlet Chorus, perhaps you'd find our help more forthcoming. Shut your snout, filthy mongrel! I won't suffer childish japes in my camp! I see where this is going. I just proclaimed an edict to put a stop to this nonsense. Of course. We must all set aside our frustrations. The Overlord's edict tells us in no uncertain terms that the time for such bickering is over. We have plenty of time to argue later. For the moment, our days are numbered. I will assist. Then our plan just might work. The Iron Marshal lifts her gauntlet close to her face, shifting her eyes from you to the metal articulations. We are loath to work with those who do not share our training and our values, but we know that Tunon the Adjudicator selects only the most capable minds for his court, and I trust you will honor us all on the field. Antio will be leading the charge at Echo Call Crossing. Assisting you will be Barak of the Stone Shields. She points to a heavily armored soldier standing sentry at the edge of the training field. Before you ask, no, the Forgebound weren't sloshed on Dappleseed when they fitted his armor. He survived the full force of the Edict of Storms, and his armor doesn't exactly come off. Tactically, it's quite brilliant, but otherwise it's something of a curse. Tapping her helmet twice, Erenio signals to the hulking presence. Barak, come meet the Fatebinder. Hold on, if his armor doesn't come off, how does he eat, and how does he piss? The soldier that steps up to you better resembles an amalgamation of rusted blades and mismatched pieces of armor fused into a vaguely humanoid shape. He reeks of sweat, feces, and whatever oil treatment keeps him flexible.
Fatebinder, the Iron Marshal has tasked me with keeping you alive, and I have no intention of disappointing her. That should be enough assurance for anyone.
An honor.
Likewise, good Binder.
The soldier heaves a heavy iron arm into a salute, his whole body clanging as he wraps his gauntlet against the twisted sheets of metal that form his breastplate.
Barak, is that you under there? I had no idea you were in Vendrian's well. Fatebinder, do you know this walking anchor?
I encountered Barak in the Stalwart campaign, though he appears much changed. He's an excellent soldier. Actually, just a minute, you two know each other?
No. Oh, that is to say, yes. I'm already as familiar with this ironclad halfwit as I care to be.
She regards Barak with a mixed look.
We don't have time to trade jabs today, Verse. After the siege, you can throw as many tantrums as you please. I suggest that we remain focused on the mission.
No offense to the mission, but seeing you looking like a garbage heap and reeking of a mass grave is more amusing by far. Did you forget how to don your armor, or did Graven Ash leave you out in the rain?
Barrack sighs, a frustrated growl shaking his iron enclosure of his suit. I encountered Barrack in the Stalwart campaign, though he appears much changed. He's an excellent soldier.
You're generous to say so. I'm afraid I left the better part of myself on the killing fields of Stalwart, but it's still in my pride and honor to serve the Legion.
His voice falters. You can't tell if it's hesitation or regret that stalls him. The Fatebinder will be joining us for the push across the river. I figured an extra hand might help. And more importantly, if my worries come true and the chorus tries to impede the mission, we will have an observer from the court on our side.
Better to work with the Honorable Binder than some chorus children.
He nods to you, his armor creaking as he bends his neck. I ask that Barrack accompany you there to arbitrate the cooperation between his company and the Scarlet Chorus. Barrack, you've been without a cohort since the last battle of Stalwart. It's time we give you a task more worthy than hauling wagons and leading training drills. She plants her hands on her hips and speaks in clipped official terms. Ash has assigned you to the Fatebinder's service. You're to assume this task is ongoing until we find a more permanent spot for you, which could very well mean the swiftly approaching end of this war, or when the Fatebinder dismisses you. Is that understood? Barrack regards the Iron Marshal in oppressive silence. That's an order, Barrack. He can be as stubborn as pulling a spire out of the earth, but he's a good soldier. I hope you don't mind the company. I'm honored to have a member of the Iron Legion at my side. Excellent. I look forward to your success in the field. And I am ending this episode here. Next episode, we'll take a better look at Barrack, because this one has gone on long enough. Even longer than I expected. So, that'll be in the next episode. Till then, I am Cheswick44. That is Jason Pendragon, Verse, and Barrack. This has been a Let's Play of Tyranny, and I shall see you all next time.